So welcome everyone to this subject, which gets talked about a lot. So imposter syndrome, recognizing it and kind of how to live your best life, even with the situation we're in right now. So looking at the screen there, there's little eyes and there's some little bubbles. And these are some of the things that truly do go on in our brain, and we can't stop them. But what we can do is we can recognize that they are our thoughts and they are going to be there for the rest of our life. And I think once we recognize that, we're able to move forward. And sometimes we feel in life that we are putting on a mask, and the mask is pretty much our unauthentic self. So what we're going to do is we're going to look at a bit of a journey of what is imposter syndrome, because it's a word that gets bandied around, and some people kind of describe it really well, and other people kind of put their own spin on it. So I'm going to give you the scientific approach to the world of imposter syndrome. We're going to talk about how does it show up. And again, there may be other ways that this shows up for you. This is my interpretation and my opinion. Also some ideas around some of the clients that I've worked with over the last 29 years. So that happened even back in my day when I was working in retail. So how does it show up? What does it look and feel like? And then the consequences of what is the impact of not doing anything about it. There's also a little bit like personality profiling. There's kind of typically types associated to imposter syndrome. So we'll have a look at those. And then we'll go into how do we deal with this? How do we make sure that it's not going to hold us back from being our authentic self and showing the world what we truly are capable of? Because every single one of you right here, right now, you're unique. You have a gift. You have something to give to the world. And unfortunately, sometimes we do allow what's going on inside us to stop us. We live on this planet once. We have one life. And so I'm just going to talk you through some of the ideas that I use with my clients to kind of help them to start to move forward. Now, this is not something that's going to fix you in half an hour. Imposter syndrome is a massive subject. When you start to go into some of the things around perfectionism and procrastination, they're subjects in themselves. But what I want to do is I want to touch the surface with you guys so that you get an appreciation of what it is. And at any point, if anyone wants to ask a question, just sort of shout out. So if you look up, obviously, the definition of what imposter syndrome is, it's a psychological pattern in which an individual doubts their accomplishments or has a persistent internalized fear of being exposed as a fraud. And believe me, you are not alone in these feelings. You wouldn't be human if you haven't ever had imposter syndrome. If you haven't had it, the chances are at some point you will. It is known that everyone at some point will have these feelings. And just to kind of get a bit of a spin on that, this is kind of things that are going on. Someone will say, how are you doing? And your response is the word fine. There's a whole scientific approach around just the word fine, but these are the words that you're saying to yourself inside. So even though you say, I'm doing just fine, actually there's quite a lot going on underneath the surface. So typically, do you sort of see some of that? How does it show up? Anxiety and depression are probably the biggest things that actually are what's going on. So we come from a place of either fearing from the past or fearing towards the future. So if we're looking at anxiety, that is when we're starting to look at the future possibilities and we're looking at new challenges, and just the thought of them alone puts us into a bit of a frenzy and we feel quite stressed. The other thing is we tend to compare ourselves against other people, and social media and the news and everything like that is probably where we tend to look. We're looking at celebrities, we're looking at other people like us doing a similar job, and we're thinking they are so successful. Believe me, nobody really shoots down themselves. They're going to say how great their life is, but underneath the surface, we've all got things going on. We also have a feeling of undeserving that status at work. And, you know, it could be down to a number of reasons. It could be that we have an unappreciating boss. It could be that we're actually not maybe in the role that we feel is our calling. And so sometimes some of that feedback that we get, we are taking it very personal. So if you look at the fear of evaluations at work, when we go into, and again, this is probably an old school thing, but when we used to have our annual appraisals, if you have a meeting with your boss, you kind of fear what they might say about you. And then the flip side of that is when you get given good feedback or appreciation or recognition, or someone just gives you a compliment, we almost kind of have a cynic view inside of us, and so we don't really take it. So we undermine ourselves when we get that appreciation. The other thing that tends to happen is we question our choice of line of work. We doubt whether we're doing the right thing. And so when we've got all of these thoughts going on in our mind, that's how we show up. The thoughts are creating our reality in life. So we feel also that we don't know what we're doing, or we don't even know why we're doing it. And so when we're in this thought process of continuous doubt, continuous questions, continuous statements, whether it's about our past or towards the future, what we're doing is we've set our focus to look at all the things that we don't do right, all the things that go wrong for us. So we then start to feel this way. These are just some of the words that kind of ring true for a lot of people. We doubt ourselves. We feel we have a low self-esteem and self-worth. We doubt everything around us. We have that feeling of, I'm not good enough. Everybody else is achieving and I feel that I'm sort of falling backwards. We have that lack of confidence. We feel self-sabotaging. The critic inside of us is stronger than the coach. We feel that people are judging us. And, you know, this is quite a key thing to kind of recognize, that judging, we have natural biases inside of us. And it's really important to think about, you know, what are the biases inside of you and where are those biases being formed, and why are we judging ourselves and others? And this gets covered a lot in mindfulness, which is a practice that I've fallen in love with recently. We have the feeling of insecurity, and also the other thing to really kind of factor in is the stress that we cause in our own life, which leads to potential burnout. And I will, you know, my passion is to help people because I know what that feels like. And stress does show up in our lives, and sometimes we don't even know that we're in that stress situation. So let's just have a look at the impact. Now, on the left-hand side, I really love this graphic because it does kind of highlight who gets imposter syndrome. In the green, who gets it. In the orange, the other people that get it. And blue, literally everyone else. So please don't think that if you have any of these symptoms or signs of having imposter syndrome, we all have it at some point. The impact of it, however, is that we go into those chaotic moments where we start over preparing and we work even harder. You know, we're working 60, 70 hours a week to look like we're doing a great job, but we're kind of going backwards. We hold back from putting ourselves forward for promotions or going for an interview because it feels like it's not really for me. We see advertisements to put yourself forward for talks or for presentations, and we hold ourselves back. The good old procrastination is a massive part of imposter syndrome. So we fear starting things, we don't finish things, we put off things, you know, and that's a subject half in itself. The self-sabotage is massive, because this in the long term will impact your health. So how you talk to yourself is really key with imposter syndrome. Every thought that we have is just a thought. We have a choice on how we talk to ourselves. The other thing is we tend to hide ourselves. We maintain this lower or ever-changing profile. We may show up one day as a coach, the next day we're a trainer, the next day we're doing something else. And so we're not convincing ourselves, and so we have so much doubt, and that's what we show up in the world. So really think about, you know, how do you show up at the moment? And if you have found that you're working so hard and not really achieving, is there something going on inside of your own brain that's actually self-sabotaging you? So these are the 5 types. So it'd be interesting to see, you know, just pop in the chat, or if you feel that any of these relate to you. Or if you don't feel like sharing, then that's absolutely fine too. So type 1, the perfectionist. This is probably one of the top ones. So it's about everything has to be perfect before I go out and show the world. I cannot possibly put my new website out until everything looks perfect. I possibly can't put a new product out because I haven't done all of the tasks that need to be done. So everything is in that world of 100%, a little bit like when we were at school and we wanted the A+ mark. So really think about, is perfectionism, I can't speak, perfectionism holding you back? The other one is the expert. And, you know, the definition of an expert is actually somebody who's made lots of failures in their life and they're still learning. But we kind of look at it sometimes from the point that we need to be really smart. I already know everything. And I should know how to do this. But experts, believe me, if you look at people like Henry Ford, you know, he failed thousands of times before he actually had the right product. And actually, you've got to just put yourself out there. And also this comparison as well, you know, you are an expert, you know your stuff, and that's why you're doing what you're doing. The soloist, and I think this is a little bit of where I was at the start of my business, you believe that you have all the competence you need and you need to do everything yourself. You may have a feeling of distrust to other people, but you want to do everything yourself. And actually that can be really damaging. The power of delegation will help you to grow your business and will help you as well. You cannot know everything. It says they're Superwoman. This could be Superman too. And this is, you know, if I were really competent, I'll be able to do it and do it really easily. So, you know, and again, I'm sorry, it just says Superwoman. It's the only one I could find. I need to do these myself. And then the type 5 is the great mind. And this is the one is about speed and competence and doing things quickly. So I judge myself on ease and speed, and therefore it can have a knock-on effect. I want everything to be quick. So have a think about, are these your typical type? Is there things, you may have a couple of them. I know for me, the perfectionist and the soloist were actually key for me. And now I live my life by the 80-20 rule. And actually I have people around me that do the things that I can't do. How do you deal with it? Now, this is a massive list and it's a huge subject in itself, but these are just some of the really simplistic things. When I say simple, they're not easy because it is a shift in mindset. Now, if I could, I would remove the word should from the whole dictionary. We shouldn't ever should ourselves or should somebody else, because it's judgmental and it's blaming and it's horrible word. So I you know, if you can just take one thing away from this session, please don't should anyone, and certainly don't should yourself. It's a really negative word and it doesn't do anything for our brain. Have belief in yourself. One of the things that I've learned as I've grown up is you have to have belief in yourself and not expect it from others. You know, when you're constantly waiting for approval from everybody else, you may be disappointed. So having belief in yourself, and when you're working with these thoughts that are going on in your mind, and I'll talk about affirmations and positive self-talk, you will build a different story that's going on in your mind. One of the other things our brain can't cope with is demand of too much too soon. So start with small steps and then stack them up. When you look at a big audacious goal, it's great to have something to work towards, but it can also overwhelm you and stop you in your tracks. So if you have something that you aspire to achieve in the next 3, 5, 10, 20 years time, break it down and recognize what small steps you can take rather than seeing it as something huge. When you are walking on that path of small steps rather than big, you will then recognize the successes along the way, and it's making note of those and recognizing those and celebrating those wins. The importance with success is the amount of times we look at the things that we don't do so well. So as from today, I'd really like you to focus on what has gone well. What have you learned in your life up until today that's made you the person you are today? Because believe me, life is not easy. Life is full of curveballs. Life is full of stresses and issues and challenges and grievances and everything else. You're here today. So that means huge amount for you. Your resilience is so strong and you can just keep moving forward. Accept recognition and compliments. If somebody gives you a compliment, it's a gift. Grab it and also recognize it, because the person giving the gift wants to feel good too. So don't shut it off. Think about perspective. When you're looking at life through a certain lens, you're looking at one way. Turn around, stand in a different place, go for a walk. When you start looking at things from a different perspective and not just from one view, actually things look a little bit different. A quote I use a lot is from Wayne Dyer, which is, when you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. And it's so true. Drop perfectionism. It's not cool anymore. You're not with the cool kids. Get rid of it, okay? 80-20 is the way forward. Adopting growth mindset. Now, fixed mindset is pretty much, I'm just going to do what I do today and that's it. You know, the insanity loop is formed because we just keep going about the same routine every day. Growth mindset is where we step out of our comfort zone and we start looking for opportunity. We see and we become curious. Back on the successes, recognize your strengths. Not everyone is going to be fantastic at doing social media. Not everybody is going to be fantastic at being a finance or an accountant. Not everybody is going to be great being a coach, but there are other people that can help you. Stay in your own lane and focus on what you are good at. One of the tools that I use with my clients a lot is journaling. I'm not going to talk about too much of it now, but journaling is about you expressing. Back in my day as a child, we had a diary and we used to write little notes to ourselves each day. That's kind of what journaling is. It's become a bit of a, you know, a subject in itself, but it is about you just writing some notes for you for the day, how it went, what went well, what could you have done differently, what can you take forward to tomorrow, how did you feel? And these kind of things start to show you a pattern of your life and the things that are going well. It's also great for recognizing if you're suffering from things like headaches or you're suffering from back pain. You can start to see a theme of sometimes the things we do in life, sometimes the things we say to ourselves through thoughts are actually having an impact on us as an individual. Also, when things go wrong, failures, it kind of knocks us. Now, failures are about something went wrong at this specific moment, but what is my learning from it? If you don't fail, you didn't try hard enough. Actually, 50% of your goals you should fail, because if you achieve every single goal you ever set, they weren't big enough. They didn't stretch you enough. So failures are about really stretching that growth muscle in our brain. Accept your limitations. You can't do everything, but you can do the things that you're passionate about. And don't over push yourself. Visualize success. Visualization is one of the most powerful techniques if used correctly. When you sit and you visualize potentially anything that's maybe making you feel anxious, You've already lived the experience. So the time that you go into it, actually it feels okay. And we can talk about that more if you want to. We've talked about comparison. Avoid comparing yourself to other people. Everybody is in a different chapter of their book. Some are at chapter 1, some at chapter 6, and some are at chapter 10. Some have completed the book. Be in your chapter and know that you're on a journey. And that will just help you to realize that we're all part of a long journey in life and we're at different places. So just because somebody's just launched the most amazing website, it doesn't mean that you have to launch yours today. Launch it when it's ready for you. Develop a mantra. Now, positive self-talk is something that a lot of people think is a bit fluffy. It's the most powerful technique when you do it right. Now, it doesn't mean that you suddenly say, I am stressed, I won't be stressed. It doesn't work. We have to remove the negative connotation in our speech or in our language. So, you know, think about what are those things that you're saying to yourself on a daily basis that's actually not helping you. It's not making you feel good every day. It's holding you back. It's giving you the headaches. It's giving you those moments of procrastination in your life. So I am confident. I am beautiful. I am doing my best I can do today with the tools I have. So making yourself live in the moment as you are. Now, this is a little bit of law of attraction piece of work in here as well. So these mantras, develop them into the world of in the present tense. When you write something like, I will become, you're not there. So put it in the present and future tense and live as if, and that will make a huge difference. There's a sneaky one in there, get a coach. That's just to make you laugh. Accept everything you don't know everything. Be curious, we've talked about. Just do it. JDI is just do it. Take action. Confidence is not something you can just do by talking to yourself. Confidence is about repetition of doing and taking action. So please, what step can you take? Now, the other thing is, a little bit like a computer, it starts to run quite slowly when you've got too many apps running. So what apps have you got going on in your head right now that you could switch off? Are they necessary? Do you need them right now? What are the best possible apps that you want to switch on in your mind right now to get you to have the most amazing Thursday ever? And one of the things that I am a big advocate right now of is be kind and compassionate to yourself. There are other people around you that can help, but you've got to do this for yourself. Be kind, have self-care in your life, but this is one of the ways to start. What are you saying to yourself right now? As I've been speaking to you for the last 20 minutes or so, you would have had thoughts, you would have been making judgments, opinions, you'd be thinking about what you've got to do for the rest of Thursday. I want you to pause right now, right here, and think, what is my voice saying to me right now? Because when you take care of how you speak to yourself, the world changes in front of you. If you feed your mind with positivity and success, that's what you will focus on and that's what you will achieve. And sometimes, do you know what? It's okay to have a shit day because we're human. Sometimes we just want to be on the sofa and we want to watch Netflix or we want to do something. That's okay. We are not robots. We do not need to show up every day and be positive 100% of the time. Our energy over this COVID period will be depleted. And we need to recognize that. I want you to listen to your body. I want you to listen to your mind and what is going on for you right now. Everything starts with you. Please don't rely on people around you. The world is ever changing. The external around us is ever changing. We cannot change that. What we can do is just choose how we respond to it. This is a picture here of an iceberg. And 10% of the iceberg shows above the waterline and the rest is below. And this is a representation of you and your mind as well. The 10% above is all about how you show up, what people see. The other 90% below that waterline is how you're feeling. It's your makeup of your life. It's your past experiences. It's your biases. It's how you feel about life. And sometimes we put a mask on and we show up to the world, everything is amazing and everything is great. And then we go back into our little hidey hole and actually the world is not. By showing a little bit of vulnerability sometimes and talking to people about how you feel, because when you start to talk about it and you get it out of your mind and you see it or feel it or hear it, we can do something about it. It's the people that choose not to share. See, the thing is, every child is born with confidence, but along the way we lose it. And the reason we lose it is because of external influences that we've allowed to listen to us, we've allowed us to listen to. It could be our parents, it could be our schooling and education, it could be our bosses, it could be our partners. And what we've done is we've believed those beliefs to be true, and they are maybe pulling us down. What I want you to do is to ask yourself these 3 questions. When any kind of thought comes into your mind, is it true? Is it true, really? And who would I be without that thought? Most powerful 3 questions whenever you're unsure of whether those voices are you or somebody else. And believe me, it took me 3 years to dial back some of those words that were going through my mind that I thought were mine. And it's a journey, and please just take care of yourself when you're doing this journey. So just to kind of talk about some motivation now. One life, be you, believe in yourself. My little mantra is Wonder Woman, you know, do the Wonder Woman pose and put my big girl pants on and all that kind of stuff. So who is your hero? Who is the person that you want to be? It can be fact or fiction. It can be somebody around you. And think about how do they show up and what do they do? And would they talk to themselves like maybe you do? Would they listen? Would you speak to your friend the same way that you speak to yourself? There are some great videos by Amy Cuddy. She is a psychologist and she talks about power posing, and it is proven science that if you get into a power pose for at least 2 minutes, it changes the psychology inside of us. It reduces our stress hormone, which is cortisol. It increases our level of testosterone. And yes, I know that's a male hormone, but it helps you to show up in the world. So if you've got anything that you want to feel more confident about, check out Amy Cuddy, and it's a video on power posing. So body language in itself, another subject, will really help the psychology in your mind to help you show up the best way that you can. I would also encourage you to really think about looking at mindfulness and meditation. It changed my life literally, because once I recognized that those voices inside of me were a little bit different, they were not mine, I took control back of my life and I started living as the true, authentic person that I am. Get out in nature is the other key thing. So if you are close to anywhere where there is wildlife or nature or water, or if you can get to the beach or just get outside, we need that outside environment to just let go sometimes and to push pause on life. And when we just sit in our desks and we just work away for however many hours a day, it will deplete you. So please look after yourself. The other thing is surround yourself with the right people. Sometimes this is called a bit of a cull. You need to think about the people you spend most of your time with. Are they serving you? Are they adding value to you? Or actually, are they destroying you? And what can you do and what steps can you take in order to really help that within your life too? One of the techniques that I've adopted in my life for the last couple of years is called the 20-20-20. And this is a routine that I follow by the book every single day of my life when I can. Now, there are times when I need to do other things, but generally speaking, I'll know if I haven't done my 20-20-20. So 20 minutes, basically, I will spend on myself doing exercise, stretching, meditation and mindfulness, and then maybe reading or doing some form of study. So really think about what is it that you want to add into your life to really set yourself up for the day. And when I do my mindfulness and meditation, I set my intention for the day, just one, about what I want to achieve that day. How do I want to be seen that day? How do I want to feel that day? The power of intentions is really, really key in our lives right now. So what are you saying first thing in the morning about the day that you want to have ahead? So some questions just to throw to you now is, what do you want in life for you? Be selfish. This is your life and you have one. And what do you want to achieve if you knew you couldn't fail? What's that one thing that you would like to do? Where do you want to see yourself in 3 months' time? Write it down. And I want you to step into that moment of that 3 months from now. And if it doesn't feel good enough, change it. I want you to experience what it feels like to have achieved that 3-month achievement, even if it is just something small. And I say the brain prefers smaller chunks that will lead to bigger gains. So I'm asking you right now and right here, what's the one thing that you're going to do today that will take you one step closer to achieving that goal? And take the time for you and share it. If you share a goal, the chances are you're more committed and you'll achieve it. And thank you. And thank you for listening.